Hey, welcome to another Tangent. Today we're going to be talking about Marvel D.A.G.G.E.R. This is kind of a larger 1 to 4 player game, kind of reminiscent of Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror. Today, of course, we've got on our game topper playmats, and the game was sent to me by Cape Fear Games, our sponsor here. We're going to do another Tangent where we're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about D.A.G.G.E.R. I'm going to give you a little overview here and also tell you kind of my thoughts of the game. So, like I said, you've got kind of the Arkham Horror feel where you've got a lot of different locations, and as heroes you're going to be moving around the locations and doing various different quests and such, and different missions, and trying to take out the big bad. Today I've got it set up kind of mid-game with a 2-player game. Also, I'd say 2-player, but it's really solo because I've got it set up with 2 players. In solo, you just basically two-handing two characters rather than just one character playing it solo. And I've got it set up here with Red Skull. Now, normally they've got you where they want you to start with Loki, but here you've got Red Skull, so they've got you can use Red Skull, Thanos, Loki, and somewhere in here, oh, there he is, Ultron to start as your starter is what the different villains they have in here. Now, if you notice on here, with the villain, after everybody goes, the villain's going to activate and give you different things that he will do depending on the card, basically your event card that they draw. Now, the event card is going to have something that's going to happen at the end. This is the end of the turn. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but this is the end of the turn. You'll draw one of these cards, and then on the side here, any of the cards in play that have this symbol will trigger, and then this symbol will correspond to whatever it says on the different villain. Now here, they've got all the things that'll do, and then you'll have all the villain activations, and then different spawns depending on the character, how many characters in play. Here, you'll get one of the villain spawns, and it'll spawn on location 2. And each one of the villains will have their own spawns. Well, here you've got the Hydra Exo Soldiers for Red Skull. Then at the beginning of the game, you'll have random kind of villain groups. Here, kind of doesn't really go with it, but these are kind of usually the Ultron ones. But because it was kind of the villain group that was drawn from the very first quest that you put out. Now, as you're setting up, you'll also have different side quests that you'll be going on. Here you've got kind of D.A.G.G.E.R. This is one, if you defy this mission on Wakanda, place 1 progress potion token, and I'll get into how that is. So this here, in order to do it, you have to get 1 progress token for every character. So here it would only take 2, but it's only giving you 1 reward there. And then this is something that'll happen at the end of the turn if it does have that. And then also side missions that can spawn are kind of special ones. Like you see here, Baron Zemo can spawn from a side mission, and then he'll have 4 health, basically 2 power. That'll come into play with kind of damage to you and other, when you're resolving other side missions. And then he starts off in location 9. Now, what you've got here is basically the villain deck. And this is the different quests that you'll go on to put the villain. And then as you get them, you'll either have to, if you get to the threat of 14, you fail them. And also you have got different things that you've got to do. And then whether you pass it or fail it, it'll go up top, and that'll come into play for the end. So once you get through all 3 of those, you'll go into the final showdown with the villain, and then you'll have different things that'll, the villain will then flip over, where you've got more powerful villain, and then you've got to basically defeat the villain in that final showdown, but you're still kind of playing the game, and other things can affect you. Now here, as I mentioned, there's the starting quest. This is your setup quest, and this will tell you, you put a side quest in there, and it'll also tell you kind of which villain set you're going to be using. Here I mentioned the Ultron side, the side villains, or who you're going to use, kind of the henchmen, or not the main henchmen, but kind of those side henchmen that I mentioned over here. So that's how you determine who you're going to use in the game, and that'll always be on top. It's kind of a little easier, but it gives you a little bit of a head start to try and be able to get things going. Now let's talk about the heroes in the game. There's a ton of heroes in the game where you can start with. You got Black Panther, the She-Hulk, Black Widow, your usual, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and on the other side of every hero will be a main hero and another hero. So you've got Peter Parker and Miles Morales. So here I've got T'Challa, and you've also got Shuri. So I've got a whole bunch, and then you've also got aspects that you're using. Aspects are kind of like a lot of the same things as you would in Marvel Champions. So here you've got the justice aspect, and you've got the aggression aspect. Now, let me show you what we've got on the hero card. Now you've got different attacks. This is how many dice you're basically going to roll. Attacks, defiance, and tactics. Now, as I say here, with using leadership, if you do use your boost token, what's going to happen is if I was to use this, let's just say on fight, which doesn't give me anything boosted, however, but after you spend your boosted aspect token on aspect action, another hero may perform that aspect action of the same type without spending a token. So that's a good way to get double fight in with those two guys, especially like here, if you're on the same location. So that's really good. Those aspects are pretty powerful. But again, if you do get defeated, you would flip it over to the shattered side. Now, pretty much explained everything. You would go, and this is the star token. You would go throughout the game, and you're trying to get the different missions. And then once you get through the 3 enemy-specific missions, then, again, like I said, you would flip your villain over, and then it's time. Now, what are my thoughts on the game? I really like the game. It's very, very swingy. Unfortunately, like many things, the Fantasy Flight rulebook, kind of a mess. It's kind of a little bit of a mess. There's a lot of questions that come into play as you're playing the game that you're just kind of wondering what in the heck is going on, and you can't find the answer. But it could be a lot worse. I've seen worse, but the game is really good. It is a lot of fun to play. It can be a little swingy. I've had turns where all of a sudden you're fighting the villain, you get all your stuff done, you go to the villain phase, and boom. Two things, you flip over one of these cards, or you flip over a villain-specific card. All of a sudden, the villain does some damage, then the villains do some damage, and all of a sudden your guy's dead. Now, that's fine. Generally, you're going to lose at least 1 or 2, or you're going to be on the second hero every single game, and then kind of get to that end point. But sometimes it just feels bad when there's not really anything you could do, and you are planning ahead, that all of a sudden you're down. But it's kind of one of those games. I would say, if you do like adventure sort of games, this is going to be one for you. I highly like this one. It is great solo because, again, you're controlling 2 heroes. There's a ton of aspects in the game. A lot of great heroes with a lot of thematic abilities, and all of them. You can get some a little bit better combinations than some others, and there's a lot of really fun things that you can do. So I do highly recommend this game. If you can pick it up, that it is a fun, especially if your group likes these type of thematic games, or you like kind of the D.A.G.G.E.R and you're, that type of thematic game where you're doing different quests around and just trying to beat the clock against the villains. A lot of different villains. Again, they vary in difficulty because Ultron's kind of hard and so is Thanos, but Loki can also be a little bit hard. So I would say thumbs up to this game. I recommend checking this one out. There's a lot of great bits. The production value is amazing. The dice are cool. Of course, like everything else, when you are using dice can be swingy. So that's going to be what happens. Sometimes you can roll dice, and see here, you get 3 hits. That can kill a lot of things. Or you can roll 0. I've had a lot of turns where I'm trying to defy something, and I get 0 successes, and you're like, oh, just feels bad. But again, you're playing an adventure game with dice. Those things are going to happen. So I have to say, thumbs up for this one. Definitely check out Marvel D.A.G.G.E.R if you like. Also check out the Geek All-Stars podcast and other tangents that I put out there where I like to do a little bit of overview, kind of rules, and my thoughts of the game. All right, I'll see everybody next time.